I am Nyasha, born in the dusty streets of Mutare, where the sun bakes the earth and dreams often wither. My childhood was marked by an empty stomach, tattered clothes, and endless work for a family that took me in but never loved me. Yet this is not a tale of defeat. This is my story, grounded in faith and perseverance, how God used my struggles to sow a future I never imagined. In Mutare, where the Manika River caves a quiet path, I was an orphan, raised by Mai Chipo, a woman with a sharp tongue and little kindness. She gave me leftovers when she felt generous, handed me worn-out rags, and kept me busy from dawn to dusk, cleaning and fetching water and tending her small garden. You are lucky to eat at home, Nyasha, she would say, her voice cold. Her daughters Tariro and Ruvimbo smirked as I wagged, their words stinging, but every night I knelt in the dark, praying to God for strength, believing He had a purpose for me. One evening, weary from fetching water, I sat by the river, my heart heavy. An old woman named Mai Wevhu, a respected farmer known for her generosity, approached me. Her face was lined with years of toil, but her eyes were warm. Nyasha, she said, God has given you a strong spirit. Don't let hardships bury it. She pressed a small packet of vegetable seeds into my hand, tomato, maize, and spinach, and told me to plant them somewhere safe, promising it would change my life if I worked hard. I found a neglected patch behind Mai Chipo's house, where the soil was hard but not barren. Each night I sneaked out to tend it, loosening the earth with a wooden spoon, watering it with river water, and praying over every seed. Shoots appeared, then starred plants, and soon I had a small garden bursting with green. The neighbors noticed, asking for cuttings, offering coins for my vegetables. Mai Chipo grew jealous, demanding I hand over my earnings. This is my land, she shouted. But when she tried to uproot my plans, the community stepped in, scolding her greed. Shamed, she begged off. Her daughters silent. Word of my garden spread through Mutare. People came to buy, trade, or learn, and I saved every coin. With help from the church, I rented a small plot by the river and expanded my garden. I hired other orphans, teaching them to grow their own food, and together we built a cooperative. Mai Wevhu visited one day smiling. You have turned a seed into a harvest, Nyasha. Keep tending it. Today, I'm no longer the hungry girl in rags. I am Nyasha of Mutare, a farmer and leader. Proof that with faith, hard work, and a single seed, God can grow a life of purpose that feeds many. As my garden by the Manika River grew, so did my hope. Like a vine reaching for sunlight, I am Nyasha, no longer the girl who cowered under Mai Chipo's harsh words in Mutare. My small plot became a patch of green, rows of tomatoes, red as dawn, maize standing tall, and spinach leaves broad enough to shade the soil. But this is not just a story of crops. It's about how God used my hands to cultivate a community, turning my pain into the harvest that feeds hearts as much as bellies. The cooperative I started with other orphans, Blessing, Tinashe, and little Shuvai, became a beacon in Mutare. We worked side by side, our laughter mixing with the click of woes. Blessing, a quiet boy with a knack for numbers, kept our earnings straight, while Tinashe, bold and quick, carried our produce to the market. Shuvai, barely 10, tied bundles of greens with care, her smile brighter than the river at noon. We sold our vegetables to shops, churches, and families, saving every dollar to buy more seeds and tools. On Sundays, we would gather under a msasa tree, praying for strength and thanking God for His provision. But growth brought challenges. A trader named Baba Moyo, whose stall dominated Mutare's market, saw our success as a threat. "You children think you can outdo me," he sneered, spreading rumors that our produce was poor. Sales dipped and doubt crept in. I remembered Mai Chipo's words about my strong spirit and turned to prayer, asking God for wisdom. One morning, I invited the community to our plot for a free meal. Maize sadza, spinach stew, and roasted tomatoes, all from our garden. The townsfolk came, tasted and praised our work. Baba Moyo's lies unraveled, and customers returned, some even bringing him to apologize, his head bowed. With the cooperative thriving, we dreamed big. I enrolled in an agricultural training program at Mutare's community center, learning about irrigation and crop rotation. I taught these skills to Blessing, Tinashe, and Shuvai, and we dug a small canal from the river to water our fields. Our harvest doubled, and we began to supply a school feeding program, ensuring no child went hungry as I once did. The church helped us build a shed for storage, and Mai Chipo, now frail but proud, visited often. Her laughter warm, as she called us God's gardeners. Mutare began to change. Other young people started gardens, inspired by our cooperative. We shared seeds and advice, and soon patches of green dotted the town. I saved enough to buy a small house near the river, a simple place with a tin roof where I hung a cross above the door. One evening, as I sat with Blessing, Tinashe, and Shuvai sharing a meal, I realized my hunger, not just for food, but for belonging, for purpose. I am Nyasha of Mutare, a farmer, a sister, a builder of dreams. My life began in rags, but through faith and toil, God turned a handful of seeds into a legacy. The river still flows, the gardens still grow, and I know this is only the beginning. For where there is one seed, there is always room for more. The morning mist clings to the Manika River as I, Nyasha, walked through the vibrant rows of Mwana Wevhu's garden in Mutare. Our cooperative, born from a few seeds and a heart full of faith, has become a lifetime for many. But now, our mission is growing roots deeper than ever through agricultural training, a tool God has given us to empower Mutare's youth and beyond. This is the story of how we turned our plot into a classroom, faced few challenges, and sowed knowledge that promises to bloom for years to come. Our training program began humbly in the community center I built beside my little house, with Mwana Wevhu thriving, supplying tomatoes, maize and spinach to the markets and schools. I saw a chance to share what we had learned. Blessing, Tinashe, Shuvai and myself started weekly workshops for Mutare's young people, many of whom, like me, had known hunger and hardship. We cleared a corner of our plot for hands-on lessons, where trainees could plant and tend their own rows. I enrolled in an advanced agricultural course at Mutare's Vocational Training Center, studying soil health, pest management, and crop diversification. Every evening, I shared these lessons with our group, my voice stirred with purpose. The first workshop drew a dozen teenagers, including Kudzai, a shy girl with calloused hands, and Takunda, a lanky boy who had dropped out of school to sell firewood. I taught them to test soil with simple kits, showing how to mix compost from kitchen scraps. Shuvai demonstrated planting techniques, her nimble fingers placing spinach seeds just right. Tinashe, fresh from his beekeeping training, explained how bees boosted yields by pollinating crops. Blessing created a chart to track planting schedules, his neat handwriting a guide for all. We prayed before each session, asking God to bless our efforts. By the third week, Kudzai's tomato seedlings were sprouting, and Takunda's eyes beamed as his maize stalk stood tall. but training wasn't without hurdles. Some parents in Mutare grumbled, saying farming was for the uneducated, urging their children towards office jobs. Others doubted our methods, scoffing at organic practices like mulching or using neem leaves to deter pests. Then came a drought scare, with the river running low, threatening our demonstration plots. I turned to prayer, seeking wisdom, and remembered a lesson from my course about water conservation. We dug shallow trenches to trap rainwater and installed drip irrigation using old plastic bottles, a trick Tinashe rigged up. The plot survived, and skeptics began to listen when they saw our green rows amid dry fields. To win over parents, I invited them to a harvest day where trainees like Kudzai shared their produce. The sight of full baskets and proud smiles changed minds, and more youth joined. Our program grew when a Harare-based NGO Ramutsana offered funding after hearing about Mwana Wevhu at the Masvingo Fair. With their support, we bought training manuals, tools and a solar-powered projector to show farming videos. I designed a 6-month curriculum, blending skills and practical, crop rotation, intercropping, and seed saving, with business basics like budgeting and market negotiation. Blessing trained trainees to keep records, while Shuvai started a women's group teaching girls like Kudzai to grow high-value crops like peppers for extra income. Tinashe expanded our beekeeping module, and soon hives buzzed across Mutare with trainees selling honey alongside vegetables. The impact rippled. Kudzai started a garden behind her family home, earning enough to return to school. Takunda leased a small plot, employing 2 friends to grow maize for sadza flour. By the end of the year, 50 trainees had graduated and started their own farms or joined Mwana Wevhu. We partnered with churches in Chinoi and Gwanda to replicate our model, sending Tendai and Shuvai to train their youth. One evening, Mai Chipo, frail but radiant, joined us at the center. Nyasha, she said, "You are not just growing food, you are growing futures. I am Nyasha of Mutare, once a hungry child, now a teacher of the soil. Through agricultural training, Mwana Wevhu is planting more than crops. It's planting hope, skill and faith in a generation." As our trainees' gardens flourish, I see God's hand in every leaf, guiding us towards a harvest that will feed Zimbabwe for decades. The sun climbs high over Mutare, casting light of large rows of Mwana Wevhu's garden by the Manika River. I am Nyasha, no longer the girl who toiled in rags, but a leader of a cooperative that feeds and teaches. Our agricultural training program has taken root, but now, with Zimbabwe's unpredictable rains testing us, irrigation techniques have become our lifeline. This is the story of how we harnessed water to sustain our crops, faced new obstacles, and shared these skills to grow stronger, all through God's guidance and our determination. Our focus on irrigation began when a dry spell paged Mutare, the river's flow dwindling, and our trainees' plots wilting. I remembered the drip irrigation trick Tinashe had rigged during the last drought scare, using old plastic bottles. But with Mwana Wevhu's training program now saving dozens, Kudzai, Takunda, and new faces like Rutendo and Simba, we needed more robust solutions. At the Mutare Vocational Training Center, I had studied irrigation method suited for small-scale farmers. I prayed for wisdom to apply them, determined to keep our cooperative and trainees thriving. We started with drip irrigation, perfect for our water-scarce region. In workshops at our community center, I showed trainees how to set up systems using affordable materials. We collected discarded plastic bottles and pipes, punching tiny holes to create emitters. Tinashe, handy with tools, led groups to connect these to elevated water tanks filled from the river. Kudzai, quick to learn, taught others to place emitters near plant roots, delivering water slowly to maximize absorption. We tested the system on spinach plot, and within days, the leaves stood greener, even under the harsh sun. Trainees like Rutendo, who had lost crops to drought before, marveled at how little water we used. Next, we explored furrow irrigation for larger maize and bean plots. Blessing, our numbers expert, calculated the best trench dimensions to avoid waste. We dug shallow channels between rows, guiding river water to flow gently, soaking the soil without flooding. Simba, strong and eager, organized teams to maintain the furrows, clearing debris to ensure smooth flow to prevent erosion. Shuvai showed trainees to plant grass along trench edges. Here, careful hands a model for others. This method boosted yields, and Takunda's maize plot became a showcase, drawing curious farmers from Mutare's markets. But challenges arose. Some trainees struggled to access enough water as the river was too far from their home gardens. Others faced theft of pipes and bottles, a sign of Mutare's poverty. I turned to prayer, seeking solutions, and God opened the doors. The Harare NGO Ramutsana donated portable water pumps, letting trainees like Rutendo draw from nearby streams. To deter theft, we painted our equipment brightly and marked it with Mwana Wevhu's name, while Blessing organized night watches among trainees. We also introduced rainwater harvesting, teaching everyone to build a simple catchment system using old tins. During brief rains, these filled barrels, giving Simba's family enough water to irrigate their peppers through dry weeks. Our most ambitious step was shallow well irrigation. I learned from a trainer in Marondera about hand-dug wells for a year-round water. With Ramutsana's grant, we hired a local expert, Babata Piwa, to guide us. He taught us to identify low-lying areas where groundwater was closed, and we dug a well near our cooperative's plot. Tinashe and Simba took turns with shovels, their sweat mixing with hope. The well lined with stones provided steady water pumped by hand to feed our drip irrigation. We trained others to dig their own wells safely, and soon Kudzai's family had won, their garden flourishing. The impact was profound. Our trainees' plots stayed green, their harvest stayed even in dry months. Rutendo sold surplus tomatoes to buy school books, while Simba's papers earned him a bicycle for the market trips. We added irrigation to our 6-month curriculum, with Shuvai leading practical demos and Blessing creating maintenance schedules. Churches in Bindura and Kadoma invited us to teach these techniques, and Tinashe traveled to share our drip irrigation model. One evening, Mai Chipo, weak but smiling, watched us test a new well. Nyasha, she said, we have brought rivers to the thirsty. I am Nyasha of Mutare, once hungry, now a teacher of water and soil, through irrigation drip, rainwater and wells. Mwana Wevhu is not just surviving, but transforming lives. With every drop we save, I see God's provision, nurturing a harvest of hope that will sustain Zimbabwe's future. The skies above Mutare are often stingy, teasing with clouds that scatter before delivering rain. I am Nyasha, standing amid the thriving plots of Mwana Wevhu's garden by Manika River, no longer the hungry girl in rags, but a leader of a cooperative that feeds and teaches. Our agricultural training program has empowered dozens. But with Zimbabwe's erratic rains, rainwater harvesting has become our cornerstone, ensuring our crops and trainees thrive. This is the story of how we captured every precious drop, overcame setbacks, and spread these methods across Mutare, guided by faith and grit. Rainwater harvesting became urgent when dry spells stretched longer. Straining our drip irrigation and shallow wells, the Manika River, though faithful, couldn't reach every trainee's home garden, and many like Kudzai and Simba struggled to keep their plots alive. At Mutare's Vocational Training Center, I had studied simple harvesting techniques suited for small-scale farmers. Praying for guidance, I shared a vision with Blessing, Tinashe and Shuvai. Turn every roof, yard and slope into a tool to catch rain. We added rainwater harvesting to Mwana Wevhu's training, determined to make water scarcity a challenge of the past. We began with rooftop harvesting, the easiest method for Mutare's home. At our community center, I showed trainees how to channel rain from tin roofs into storage tanks. Tinashe, clever with hands, rigged gutters from scraped metal and plastic pipes, directing water into old drums donated by a local shop. Kudzai learned to clean roofs before rain to avoid debris. Shuvai taught everyone to cover drums with mesh to keep out leaves and insects. We tested it during a brief shower, and Rutendo, wide-eyed, watched her barrels fill, enough to irrigate her spinach for weeks. Trainees took this home, and soon Takunda's family had a system, their maize no longer wilting. Next, we introduced ground catchment systems to those without sturdy roofs. Blessing mapped out sloped areas in our cooperative plots where runoffs could be trapped. We dug shallow trenches lined with stones, guiding water into small ponds covered with taps to reduce evaporation. Simba, strong and precise, led teams to maintain these, clearing sealed after storms. To store more, we built larger tanks from cement blocks, a skill I had learned at the training center. These ponds and tanks fed our drip irrigation. And Kudzai's home garden bloomed with peppers, her family no longer begging neighbors for water. Shuvai demonstrated how to pile soil and stones into low walls along contours, planting grass to hold them firm. Rain soaked into these bands, nourishing crops below. Rutendo, whose yard sloped sharply, built bands around her tomatoes, doubling her yield. These methods turned barren patches into green oases even in dry months. Challenges tested us. Heavy rains washed out some bands and poorly sealed tanks leaked. Theft was a problem. Drums and pipes vanished from trainees' yards. I prayed for solution and God provided. We reinforced bands with stronger stones, and Blessing trained everyone to check seals regularly. To deter thieves, we painted tanks with Mwana Wevhu's logo and organized community watches. The Harare NGO Ramutsana donated more drums and taps, letting Simba and others expand their systems. We also taught trainees to boil harvested water for drinking, easing pressure on Mutare's wells. The impact transformed lives. Kudzai sold surplus vegetables to buy a new roof, improving her harvesting setup. Takunda's family shared water with neighbors, earning goodwill. Our 6-month curriculum now included a rainwater harvesting module, with Shuvai leading demos on gutter making and Tinashe teaching pond maintenance. Groups in Rusape and Chipinge invited us to share our methods, and Blessing traveled to train their youth. I am Nyasha of Mutare, once a child of want, now a teacher of water and hope. Through rooftop systems, ground catchments, contour bands, and in-ground storage, Mwana Wevhu is turning rain into resilience. With every drop we save, I see God's hand watering a future where no gardens or dream goes dry.